Right, a campaign to protect several community centres across the capital has been backed by a number of celebrities, including Joanna Lumley. The actress joined protesters in South London over the weekend to fight against plans for 6 sites run by Hyde Housing, including the Stockwell Community Centre.
About 4 years ago I opened it and I got to learn a little bit about what it offers to this local community. About 50,000 people a year visit it. Children and old people and people who want to keep fit and people who need counselling, people who are trying to learn another language, people who just want companionship. It's absolutely invaluable, and the idea of losing it means that in a strange way part of the beating heart of Stockwell will disappear. So please help us save the Stockwell Centre.
Joanna Lumley there. Well, Hyde says it can no longer afford to run the site and is now considering new management options for 5 of them and to close the 6th. Councillor Bigham is from Lambeth Council and is part of the campaign against these plans. Good to see you. Thank you for joining us. Hyde saying it can't afford them. Let's just talk initially about why you feel it's really important that you have them. Why do you want to protect certainly those that fall into your area?
Well, both the Stockwell and Kennington community centres are located in some of the most deprived parts of London. Very big housing estates with huge social inequalities, and they provide a really valuable service. About 1,000 people a week use them. They do things like getting employment advice, there's a support service for refugees, a lot of activities for children, and it's really kind of the beating heart of the community, and it would be a huge loss, in Stockwell's case to lease it off, and in Kennington's case to demolish it.
In terms of the options there, it seems Hyde feel it's very much about money. They're saying that Stockwell, for example, only raises about 30% of its annual running costs through bookings and that they have to foot the rest of the bill. They're arguing that the government have made cuts to them as well and therefore that they can no longer afford to do it. Can you understand that argument that actually financially they're not viable?
Well, I understand the government have made cuts, but I mean, Hyde essentially is a social housing organisation, so has a responsibility to help the people who pay their rent and service charge to them. And actually, they made a profit of £95 million last year, and they say they're going to spend that entirely on developing new homes, not all of which will be affordable, rather than on protecting existing tenants. They actually gave their senior staff a pay increase of £1.2 million just last year, and it kind of, you know, it's not really in the spirit of austerity. If they'd thought about that again, actually that money would have paid for all 6 of the centres they're planning to close.
Let's bring in a little bit more about what Hyde have had to say. This is a statement that they've sent to us this afternoon. Here it is. The investment we put into our community centres is no longer financially viable, as we've mentioned, a position we completely understand is deeply upsetting for local residents. But as a responsible housing association, we must focus on creating more homes. It went on to say, it is our firm commitment to carry on working with local authority partners, residents and local community bodies to find sensible solutions and to the best of our ability to keep these services running as normal. Do you believe that they will try and do that? There is, it seems, some sentiment there that they want to make sure that they do continue. If they find new management structures, would that be a big problem?
Well, I hope they do continue, but one of the challenges, if they're going to lease it off to another group, there's no guarantees that the existing users, those kind of groups that I talked about, would be protected, and they use this service, frankly, from 9 in the morning till quite late at night, so it's well used throughout the day. And I think the challenge for Hyde is, you know, when they've said things in the past, they've gone back on them. So there's a centre in Islington, for example, where they didn't even tell the playgroup who was using the centre that they were going to lease it off to another group, and they put up their rent by 4 times, obviously threatening the viability of that group. In the case of Kennington, they actually, you know, they talk about building new homes. Obviously, we want to see more new homes. There's a huge housing crisis in the capital. But the proposal for Kennington was to build 100% homes for sale. Now, somewhere like that, those are going to be luxury homes that actually the council estate residents in my patch or in Kennington won't be able to afford.
All this, though, they still say £750,000 a year to run these 6 centres and that they haven't got the cash. Where do you go from here? I know there's a meeting tomorrow night. How can you make sure that they can perhaps change their decision?
Well, we know they do have the cash in their reserves. They've got £300 million worth of reserves, so they could pay for it. But I'm realistic, of course, and I want to work with them, and I want to engage with residents to think about ways in which we might raise more money for these centres. We've got a big campaign. We had people, you know, thousands of people signing our petition. I encourage viewers to sign it. It's on savethestockwellcentre.com. And we want to work with residents because actually they, you know, would be prepared to do more fundraising to get involved in the running of the centre rather than simply hive it off to another group, which might not have the same interests as them.
Okay, Councillor Alex Bigham from Lambeth Council, thank you for joining us. No doubt we will follow this story in the weeks and months coming to see what will happen. That's those 6 sites which are potentially at risk through changing plans by Hyde Housing. Stay with us, still to come.